The surgical bay smelled like burnt ozone and desperation. Dr. Marcus Webb hung suspended in translucent restraints, watching the Vexhari Queen circle his latest failed clone. The thing on the table had his face, his DNA, but its eyes were vacant as broken windows. The 17th attempt. The 17th corpse wearing his features. Why do they all die? Queen Zatara's voice scraped like metal on stone. Her forearms gestured at the monitoring equipment, each movement precise and threatening. Your genetic material is pristine. The replication matrices are flawless. Yet every copy degrades within hours. Marcus said nothing. He'd stopped trying to explain 3 months ago, when the Vexhari warship had plucked him from the research colony on Kepler-442b. They wanted to replicate him, mass-produce his immunity to the Crimson Plague that was eradicating their species. They didn't understand that some things couldn't be copied. The Queen's primary hands gripped his restraints, pulling him close enough to see the fear beneath her fury. Her species was dying. 2 billion dead in the last cycle alone. The geometric patterns on her carapace had dulled from cobalt to gray, a physical manifestation of her people's decline. "If I cannot clone you," she whispered, "you will watch me execute every human in this sector, starting with the children we harvested from the colony ships." Marcus's blood went cold.
"You're bluffing."
She released him, turning to the communication panel. Her clawed fingers moved across the holographic interface. A screen materialized showing a detention level he'd never seen. 37 children huddled in cramped cells, their faces ranging from 5 to 15 years old. You recognize some of them. Emily Chen from HAB Module 3, the Rodriguez twins. Little Mara, who'd asked him about stars the week before the attack. "Am I?" The Queen's translator couldn't mask the genuine anguish in her tone. "We are dying, Doctor."
"Webb. All of us."
"I will sacrifice your 37 to save 37 billion, unless you make me another choice." The clone on the table convulsed once and went still. Monitoring equipment shrieked its death. Lab technicians swarmed to disconnect it, their movements efficient and joyless. They'd done this 16 times before. They were tired of killing Marcus Webb's ghosts. The head technician, a younger Vexhari named Kresh, caught Marcus's eye. For just a moment, something passed between them. Not quite sympathy, but understanding.
They were both prisoners of the Queen's desperation.
"Your Majesty," Kresh said carefully, "the genetic degradation follows the same pattern. The immune markers that protect him from the plague are linked to neural structures we cannot successfully replicate. Each clone develops catastrophic brain hemorrhaging within 6 hours of activation." "Then fix it," the Queen snapped. "We cannot." "The immunity is not just physical. It involves quantum-level interactions we don't understand. Consciousness itself may be the catalyst." She stalked to the observation window overlooking the vast cloning facility. Rows upon rows of gestation tanks stretched into darkness, each one designed to hold a copy of Marcus Webb. Each one empty, useless. "There has to be a way," she said, more to herself than anyone else. "The mathematical models are perfect. The cellular reconstruction is flawless. Why does consciousness matter? Because I'm not a machine. Neither are you." She whirled on him, 2 of her hands reaching for weapons. Then she stopped, trembling with barely controlled rage. "Do not presume to lecture me about consciousness, human. My people have existed for 12,000 of your years. We have crossed galaxies. We have built empires. And now we are dying because of a plague we cannot cure and an immunity we cannot replicate. You're dying because you're trying to steal instead of ask." The silence that followed was dangerous. Even the lab technicians froze. No one spoke to the Queen that way. Not if they wanted to keep breathing. But Zatara didn't kill him. Instead, she laughed, a sound like tearing silk. "Ask? You think I haven't tried asking? Your Earth government refused us. Your colonial administration refused us. Your medical councils called us warmongers and xenocides. They would rather watch us perish than share your immunity." "Because you are warmongers," Marcus said quietly. "You've destroyed 6 colony worlds in the last year alone. You've taken slaves. We've done what was necessary to survive." The Queen's voice dropped to something almost vulnerable. "Would your species not do the same? If death approached on wings of crimson fire, would you not reach for any solution, however dark?" He'd thought about it during the endless hours of captivity. Would humanity show mercy to a dying enemy? History suggested otherwise. The Queen moved the clone's body, placing one hand on its cold forehead. This one almost looked alive. For a moment, when its eyes opened, I thought we'd succeeded. Then I saw the emptiness inside. She looked at Marcus. Your consciousness is the key. A consciousness cannot be cloned. It can only be packaged, she trailed off. But Marcus saw the thought forming. Saw the new horror entering her eyes. No, he said. Whatever you're thinking, no. A direct neural link, she said slowly. If we cannot replicate your consciousness, perhaps we can share it. Distributed across multiple hosts, your immune system, connected to Vexhari biology through quantum entanglement, that would destroy my mind. You'd turn me into a biological server, my consciousness shredded across 1,000 bodies. 37 children, the Queen reminded him, or you become the answer I need. Kresh stepped forward suddenly. Your Majesty, there may be another option. One, the human suggested. What if we simply asked him? He has no reason to help us. Marcus looked at the children on the screen. At Emily, who wanted to be an astronaut. At the twins who sang old Earth songs when they thought no one listened. At Amara, who still believed aliens could be friends. What if I did? The words came out before he could stop them. What if there was a way forward that didn't involve cloning, or neural slavery, or murdering children? The Queen turned slowly, all 4 eyes focusing on him with predatory intensity. I'm listening. Then let's talk, Marcus said. Not as captor and prisoner. As 2 people trying to save lives. He paused, heart hammering. But first, you release those children. All of them. That's the price of this conversation. The lab held its breath. The Queen's hands flexed on her weapons. In that moment, Marcus knew he'd either saved everyone or doomed himself. Then, impossibly, Queen Zatara smiled. It wasn't a human expression. Her mandibles opened in a way that showed too many teeth. But there was something genuine in it. Something that might have been hope. Very well, Dr. Webb. Let us talk. She gestured to Kresh. Release the children to the medical bay. Full provisions. And bring Dr. Webb to my strategy chamber. As the restraints released him, Marcus felt gravity return to his limbs. He stumbled, and Kresh caught him with surprising gentleness. You are either very brave or very foolish, the young Vexhari whispered. Probably both, Marcus admitted. But I'm tired of watching things die. The Queen was already walking away, her posture somehow less rigid. Show me this better way forward. But know this, if you deceive me, those children die screaming, and I will make you watch. Marcus followed her into the corridor, leaving behind the clone's cooling body and the empty gestation tanks. Behind him, lab technicians began the process of disposal, their movements weary with grief. Ahead, the Queen's strategy chamber waited, like a mouth of chrome and shadows. He had no plan, no brilliant solution. Just a desperate hope that somewhere between his immunity and her desperation, there might be an answer that didn't require anyone else to die. The chamber doors opened with a hiss. Inside, holographic displays showed the spread of the Crimson Plague across Vexhari space. Whole worlds glowed red with infection. The numbers were staggering. Billions dead, billions more dying. The Queen gestured at the carnage. This is what we face. This is why I have done unforgivable things. This is why I will do worse if you give me no other choice. She looked at him, and for the first time he saw her not as a monster but as a leader drowning in impossible decisions. So tell me, Doctor. Marcus Webb, what is this better way? Marcus stepped to the holographic display, his mind racing. The Crimson Plague structure rotated before him, a nightmare of mutating proteins and adaptive viruses. His immunity had developed during the outbreak on Kepler 442b when exposure to the planet's unique radiation had triggered a quantum-level change in his cellular structure. The immunity wasn't genetic, it was environmental, circumstantial. You can't clone me because the immunity isn't in my DNA, he said slowly, working it out as he spoke. It's in my cellular quantum state. The radiation on Kepler changed how my cells interact with the plague at a subatomic level. The Queen's eyes narrowed. We know this. It's why the clones fail. What if instead we recreate the conditions that made me immune? He manipulated the display, pulling up data on Kepler, 442b's radiation signature. If we can reproduce this radiation, we might be able to trigger the same quantum shift in Vexhari cellular structure, because you tried to replicate it exactly. But look, Marcus overlaid his cellular scans with Vexhari biology. Your cells have a different quantum baseline. You'd need a modified version of the radiation, tuned to your species' specific resonance. Kresh, who had followed them in, moved closer to the display. That would require unprecedented precision. And testing. Extensive testing. Testing that would kill thousands before we found the right frequency, the Queen said flatly. I cannot ask my people to die for an experiment. Marcus turned to face her. What if you didn't have to? What if I volunteered to help calibrate the radiation? My immunity means I can survive exposure to both the plague and the radiation. I could be the bridge, the translator between your biology and the cure. The Queen was silent for a long moment. You would do this? After what I've done to you. Those children didn't choose this war. Neither did most of your people, I'd guess. The Crimson Plague doesn't care about politics or history. It just kills. Marcus met her alien gaze steadily. I became a doctor to save lives. Not just human lives. Lives. If I can help end this plague, then everything I've survived here means something. It could take months. Years. You would have to work alongside Vexari scientists. Trust us. Collaborate with the very species that destroyed your colony. I don't have to like you to work with you. I just have to believe we're both trying to do the right thing. Are you? Or is this just another strategy to you? The Queen's carapace patterns flickered. A biological tell he'd learned meant deep emotion. When the plague first appeared, I had a mate. 3 offspring. I watched them die over the course of 6 days. The plague turns our blood crystalline, you understand? They became statues of themselves, conscious until the very end. My youngest was only 14 cycles old. She asked me why I couldn't save her. The chamber felt too small suddenly.
Too quiet.
I have led fleets into battle, the Queen continued. I have made decisions that cost millions of lives, but I could not save my own child. So yes, Dr. Webb, I am trying to do the right thing. Even when the right thing requires me to do wrong things first. The mathematics of desperation are cruel. Marcus thought of his own family, lost when Earth's sun had begun its expansion cycle. The reason he'd been on Kepler, 442b in the first place, everyone fled something. Everyone mourned. Then let's stop doing wrong things, he said quietly. Let's try something different. Kresh activated a new display. If we're going to attempt this, we need to understand the exact mechanism of your immunity. That means comprehensive scanning. Neural, cellular, quantum. Everything. How comprehensive? Invasive? The Queen said. Potentially dangerous. We'll be mapping your consciousness at the quantum level. There's a risk of neurological damage. Is there a risk to the children if I don't do it? The Queen's silence was answer enough. Then we start now. Marcus moved toward the medical alcove at the chamber's edge. But I have conditions. You're hardly in a position to make demands. We need me willing, not coerced. If this works, it works because I choose to help. That's not a demand. It's reality. He sat in the scanning chair, feeling the cold metal against his spine. First condition, the children go home. All of them, back to human space. Agreed. Their leverage I no longer need. Second, any Vexari who doesn't want to undergo the radiation treatment gets a choice. No forced experimentation. The Queen hesitated. If volunteers are insufficient, I won't help you trade one atrocity for another. Third, the Queen's voice was tight. When this is over, if we succeed, you stop attacking human colonies. Permanent ceasefire. We negotiate a real peace, not just a pause between wars. The Vexari High Command will never agree to that. Then convince them. You're a queen. Act like one. Marcus looked up at her. Those are the terms. Take them or kill me now because I won't help you save your species just so you can destroy mine. The Queen's forehands clenched into fists. For a moment he thought she might actually do it. Might end him just for the audacity. Then she laughed again, that strange tearing silk sound. You are either the bravest human I've ever met or the stupidest. She gestured to Kresh. Begin the scanning sequence, and contact the High Command. Tell them I'm calling an emergency session. What will you tell them? Kresh asked. That a human prisoner has given us a path to survival that doesn't require us to become monsters. Whether they listen, she shrugged, the gesture strange with 4 shoulders. That remains to be seen. The scanning equipment hummed to life around Marcus. Sensors descended from the ceiling, wrapping him in a cocoon of technology. He felt the first tendrils of the scan entering his mind, mapping the intricate dance of neurons and quantum states that made him himself. It didn't hurt, exactly, but it felt invasive, like being read at the deepest possible level. Every thought, every memory, every pattern of consciousness laid bare. The scan will take 4 hours, Kresh said, monitoring the data stream. Try to relax, think calm thoughts. If your neural patterns become too erratic, the scan fails and we have to start over. 4 hours of letting the enemy see everything he was. Marcus closed his eyes and thought of Emily asking about constellations, of the twins harmonizing, of Amara's laugh. He thought of his parents watching Earth's dying sun and choosing to send their son to the stars instead of staying to die with their world. He thought of all the choices that had led him here, to this impossible moment. Dr. Webb, the Queen's voice came from somewhere above. Why did you really volunteer for this? He kept his eyes closed. You want the noble answer or the true answer? Always the truth place, because I'm tired of being afraid. Because every time I close my eyes, I see those cloned bodies with my face. Because if I don't do something, I'm just a victim. This way, I'm a participant. I have agency. He paused. And because maybe, just maybe, we can prove that intelligent species don't have to destroy each other to survive. Idealist, how refreshing. The Queen's footsteps echoed as she circled the scanning chair. And how naive. The universe doesn't reward idealism, Doctor. Webb, it rewards strength.
Adaptability. Ruthlessness.
Is that why your species is dying? Because you were ruthless enough? The footsteps stopped. Careful, human. You asked for truth. Here it is. Maybe the plague is your species' chance to evolve. Not biologically, morally. Maybe this is the universe asking if the Vexhari can be something other than conquerors. Pretty philosophy from someone who's never commanded a fleet, never had to choose between evils. I've never commanded anything. I'm just a doctor who got lucky with his immune system. But I know that killing children to save adults isn't strategy. It's horror. And if your people can't see the difference, then maybe they don't deserve to be saved. He expected rage, expected violence. Instead, the Queen laughed softly. You're dangerous, Marcus Webb. Not because of your immunity. Because you make me want to believe you. That's a weakness I cannot afford. The scan deepened, pulling at the edges of his consciousness. Marcus felt himself fragmenting, spreading out across the quantum foam that underlay reality. For a moment, he wasn't just himself. He was possibility, potential. Then Kresh's voice pulled him back. Neural stability at 83%. Good. Very good. Your quantum signature is unlike anything I've seen. It's almost as if your consciousness exists in multiple states simultaneously. Is that normal? Marcus managed to ask. For you? Apparently yes. For anyone else? No. This might be why the clones failed. They had your body, your DNA, but not this quantum multiplicity. You're not just immune to the plague. You exist in a state that the plague cannot recognize as alive. The Queen moved closer. Can we replicate that state? Not replicate, but perhaps induce. If we expose Vexhari subjects to a specific frequency of the Kepler radiation while simultaneously suppressing certain quantum states, it's theoretical, dangerous, but possible. How dangerous? 30 to 40% mortality rate among initial test subjects. Marcus opened his eyes, breaking the scan's rhythm. Alarms chirped as the data stream corrupted. 40%, he repeated. You're talking about killing nearly half the people you test on. Or saving 60%, the Queen said. And through them, the entire species. The mathematics, they're people, living beings who don't deserve to be statistics in your survival equation. Then what would you suggest? The Queen's voice was sharp. We wait for a better option that may never come? Watch the death toll climb while we debate ethics? Marcus forced himself to think past the horror. We improve the odds. Use my quantum signature as a template. Model the radiation exposure against my biology until we can predict which Vexhari physiology types are most compatible. Screen volunteers. Find the individuals most likely to survive the process. We don't have weeks. How many Vexhari died per day from the plague? Kresh consulted a datapad. Current mortality rate is approximately 300,000 per planetary rotation. And how many would die in your first wave of testing? Perhaps 10,000. That's not weakness. That's strategy. Marcus met the Queen's eyes. I'll work every hour of that day. No sleep. No breaks. We'll model this until we can get the survival rate above 90%. But you have to give me the time. The Queen's mandibles clicked in what might have been frustration or respect. 1 day, 24 of your hours. Then we begin testing, regardless of the survival projections. Deal. Marcus settled back into the scanning chair.
Restart the sequence, Crash, and someone bring me everything you have on Vexhari physiology.
If I'm going to save your people, I need to understand them. As the scan resumed, Marcus felt the weight of what he'd agreed to. 24 hours to solve a problem that had killed billions. 24 hours to transform himself from prisoner to savior. 24 hours to prove that cooperation could triumph over catastrophe. The Queen watched him for a moment longer, then turned to leave. At the door, she paused. Webb, thank you for trying, even after everything. Then she was gone, and Marcus was alone with Kresh and the machines mapping his soul. Quite what I expected, Marcus said quietly. Kresh adjusted the scanning parameters. She's a mother who watched her children crystallize, a leader who's losing her people, a queen who's running out of choices. What did you expect? A monster. They can be defeated, killed, but a person doing terrible things for understandable reasons? That's complicated. That requires mercy. Kresh's multiple eyes focused on him. Can you show mercy to someone who has hurt you? Marcus thought about it, about the colony burning, the months of captivity, the cloned bodies with his face. I don't know, but I can try to save her people. Maybe that's enough. The data streamed past, complex patterns of consciousness and immunity interweaving. Somewhere in that information was the answer. Somewhere in the quantum dance of his cells was the key to ending the plague. They just had to find it before time ran out. Hours blurred together. Marcus existed in a strange state between consciousness and analysis, his mind both the subject and the tool of the research. Kresh worked tirelessly running simulation after simulation, each one refining the radiation parameters. At hour 17, Marcus finally saw it, a pattern in his quantum signature that corresponded to cellular resistance. Not immunity exactly, but a state of biological ambiguity that the plague couldn't penetrate. There, he said, his voice hoarse from disuse. That harmonic. Can you isolate it? Yes, but generating radiation at that specific frequency, it would require modifying our entire medical infrastructure. How long? You have 2. The Queen gave us 24 hours before testing begins. Use 12 of them to prepare the radiation generators. We tested hour 20.4 exactly. Yet. That doesn't leave any margin for error. Marcus pulled himself out of the scanning chair, legs weak from hours of immobility. Get me to an engineering terminal. I'll help with the modifications. They worked through the night, such as it was on the Vexhari warship. Marcus learned that Kresh had been a physician before the plague, had treated the Queen's children in their final hours. They didn't talk about it directly, but it hung between them. Shared trauma, different species. At hour 23, the first radiation generator was ready. Sleek and crystalline, it hummed with potential energy. Marcus stood before it, feeling the hair on his arms rise with static. Who tests it first? Kresh asked. I do. The test would be meaningless. If the radiation kills me, we know the frequency is wrong. If I survive unchanged, we know it's safe for human biology. That's data we need. The Queen entered the testing chamber, her timing too perfect to be coincidence.
She'd been watching.
Waiting. If you die, this was all for nothing. If I don't test it, you'll test it on your people without any baseline. That's worse than nothing. Finally, the Queen nodded. Proceed. But know this. If you die, I will ensure those children remember what you tried to do. Kresh activated the generator. The world turned white. Pain, exquisite and total. Every cell in his body screaming, but not dying. Transforming. The quantum signature that made him immune resonated with the radiation, amplifying instead of breaking down. 30 seconds. An eternity. Then silence. Marcus collapsed to his knees, gasping. Every nerve felt new. Hypersensitive. But alive. Vital signs stable. Kresh reported, voice shaking. Quantum cellular signature unchanged. The radiation didn't harm him. Then we're ready, the Queen said. Bring in the volunteers. Over the next hours they came. Vexhari from across the ship, knowing the risks, choosing hope over certainty. Marcus stood beside each one as they entered the radiation field, monitoring their quantum signatures, adjusting the frequency in real time based on their individual biology. The first volunteer survived. The second. The third died, blood crystallizing despite the treatment. Marcus wanted to stop, to refine further, but the volunteers' family insisted they continue. The mathematics of survival, by dawn, they had treated 47 Vexhari. 41 survived. 6 became statues, frozen in their final moments of hope. An 87% survival rate. Better than predicted, not good enough.
We continue. The Queen ordered.
Alert all ships in the fleet. Begin training medical personnel on the radiation protocol. Wait, Marcus said. The ones who survived, we need to verify immunity. Expose them to the plague in controlled conditions. The Queen hesitated. If the treatment failed... Science isn't about hoping, it's about knowing. The survivors were moved to isolation chambers. Samples of the Crimson Plague were introduced. Marcus watched the monitor's heart in his throat. The plague entered their bloodstream, touched their cells, and died. Every single survivor was immune. Completely. The quantum shift had worked. The chamber erupted in celebration. Vexhari, who had expected death, embraced. Kresh wept openly. Even the Queen's carapace patterns flared bright cobalt. "We did it," Marcus said, hardly believing it. "We actually did it." The Queen approached him, all 4 hands extended, a gesture of profound respect in Vexhari culture. "You gave us life, Dr. Webb. My people will never forget this. Release the children, end the war." The children are already en route to human space. As for the war, she activated a holographic display. The Vexhari High Command materialized, dozens of alien faces staring at Marcus with expressions he couldn't read. "I have called them here to witness, to bear testimony. Commanders, Admiral.
Ministers.
Today, a human saved us. Not through conquest or submission, but through choice. He was our prisoner, and he became our savior. The question before us now is simple. Do we deserve this gift?" Silence from the assembly. Then an old Vexhari with scars across his carapace spoke. "He is one human. His people still refuse us aid, because we never asked properly. We demanded. We threatened. We took." The Queen's voice carried absolute authority. "I propose a permanent ceasefire with humanity. Not surrender. Not submission. An alliance. We have the cure now. We can offer it to them freely. Perhaps it will protect them from future plagues. Perhaps it will be the bridge between our species. And if they refuse, then we cure ourselves and leave them in peace. We have taken enough, destroyed enough. If we continue this path, we become the plague, a virus that consumes everything until nothing remains." The debate lasted hours. Marcus watched empires argue over his fate, his species' fate, in a language he barely understood. But he understood the tone. Fear. Pride. Desperation slowly giving way to hope. Finally, the vote. 15-4 in favor of ceasefire and alliance. The Queen deactivated the hologram and turned to Marcus. "It's done. The war ends today." Marcus felt tears coming and didn't stop them. "Thank you, Webb. You showed us a better way forward." She paused. "Will you stay? Help us refine the treatment? There are still billions who need the cure." He thought about it. The colony was gone. Earth was gone. But here, now, he could make a difference. Could save billions. Could build something new from the ashes of war. "I'll stay," he said. "But not as a prisoner." "As a partner." The Queen's mandibles moved in that strange smile. "Partners, then. Shall we save a civilization together?" Marcus extended his hand. After a moment, the Queen clasped it with one of her 4, human and Vexhari, holding on to hope. Outside the chamber, the Crimson Plague still killed thousands per hour, but in that room, in that moment, the future shifted. The war ended not with a weapon, but with a word. Not with death, but with life. And somewhere in human space, 37 children returned home to tell a story about the doctor who saved an empire by refusing to be cruel, the man who met monsters and found people, the human who proved that sometimes the best way to defeat an enemy is to heal them. The work would continue for years. The partnership would have struggles, setbacks, betrayals on both sides, but it would persist. Because they had proven it possible. Because Marcus Webb and Queen Jatara had shown that even in the darkest moments there was always a choice. Always a better way forward, if you were brave enough to take it.